Hello, everybody. Right as I like signed into the live stream, all automatically I'm like knocking stuff over. Just a second. Okay. Let's hope that's not a problem. So, glad to have you all back. And let me just check into my YouTube channel to see who's on here. My channel. Turn down the volume. All right, we have Jacob of the day. We have Tyler. Hello, Tyler. Hello, Jacob. Hello, Harrison. Hello, Cunard White Star Line. Hello, Thomas. And hello, Strasbourg. Strasbourg says, "Hi, Alex. See, you got Irish breakfast tea today, and I'm drinking Lipton black tea." Awesome. Yeah, I do have the Irish breakfast tea here today. So, still just heating up the water. Train's running fine. All right, so. Oh. Hello, Luke. How's it going? Almost ready for the thing. All right. Pour some of the hot water. Cool. Let that warm up for a second. Already the train is squeaking and it's only just started. Let's see, who else is here? We got M. Brocky. Hello, M. Hello, RMS. Mr. Zantastico says, "I love your videos." Thank you so much. Hello, Element. How's it going? Hey, Sarah. Yeah, my day is going well. How about yours? Oh, I forgot. I don't need to shout because the microphone's right here. There we go. Just had to adjust it a little bit. Yeah, my day's going really well. Disney fan says, oh, jeez. Oh, boy. Okay, well, let's see. Hello, Evan. Hello, Gabe. Oh, RMS, you got your Lusitania model? How's that going? Is it already painted? Do you have to paint it yourself? Or perhaps are you going to paint it yourself? Hello, Carl. Luke says, "Do you think that Cunard will replace the Queen Mary 2 with another ocean liner when it is out of service?" I think it's very much possible. Yeah. Just make sure my volume is okay. Yeah, I think it's very much possible. I think that that their transatlantic crossings aboard the Queen Mary 2 are really, really popular with Cunard right now. I mean, the Queen Mary 2 completely books out a year in advance. Literally. So this time next year is probably already booked out with Cunard right now. And so I think it's very popular. I think that they'll realize that, you know, when the Queen Mary 2 is ready to retire, they'll probably need another one. Of course, that really depends on how, you know, how things are in the future. You know, the future can always bring you a surprise you don't expect. Let's see here. We got, Sarah says, "It's not raining, so it's a great weekend day. Paying bills and catching up on sleep today." Yeah, I did sleep in a little bit. I had a Instacart delivery this morning, and I woke up from them knocking on the door. It wasn't even morning, it was noon, because I stayed up so late last night. And I woke up at noon, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot that I ordered stuff on Instacart. Let's see here. Thomas says, I'm really upset about how many Queen Mary artifacts have been mistreated over the years. Oh, yeah, it's been so many. It's unbelievable. Just the amount of stuff that is mishandled, mistreated. They don't have a proper system for cataloging the way that museums do. And, they did do an inventory back in like 2010, 2011. But the inventory work isn't really... It's not satisfactory to today's modern standards, where we have like cataloging software that keeps track of where all the items are at any point in time. So it's like they know what the inventory is, but if someone were to come in and steal stuff, tomorrow, they may not even know it's missing. That's the problem with the current inventory system for the Queen Mary. All right. It is tea time. Well, actually, it's time to start brewing the tea is what it is. And today is Irish breakfast tea, as some of you have already gathered. $4.05, so $4.10. Thing doesn't want to sit in the center. There we go. 410. All right. Oh boy, there's a lot of comments today. Hey John, how's it going? Cunard's White Star Line says the crossings on the Queen Mary 2 are extremely expensive. They are, yeah, they are. It's a luxury ship, but you actually get a good deal for what you pay for. I mean, it is expensive, but it's not that you're not getting a good deal. I think it's a really good deal. Mr. Zantastico says, "Hi Alex, thanks for mentioning me, but I have a question for you. What ocean liner do you want to visit in the ocean?" This question is about the ocean liners who sank. About the ones who sank. Oh boy. A lot of people have been asking me about that. I do not like the ocean. I love ocean liners, but I do not like the ocean. I don't want to be underwater. So, I wouldn't ever visit the wreck of an ocean liner. But if we had some kind of advanced technology that could move the water out of the way, and I could go down in the open air and visit a wreck, what wreck would I choose? Probably Lusitania or Oceanic from 1899. I think Oceanic sank. Yeah. I think so did Carpathia as well. I'd like to see Carpathia. But yeah. Gabe says, Alex, when you ended your last stream, my question was, would it be possible if they did bring back ocean liners like early 1900s and 1930s and the older ones like the Olympic class liners? Bring back, as in like for museums and stuff? As for like museums, yeah, I can see it happening. I mean, already, there was a somewhat replica Titanic that was being constructed in in China for one of their theme parks there. And it was going to be just part of the theme park experience, and inside was going to be like theaters and stuff like that. So they were going to kind of sort of reconstruct Titanic that way. But that was a really rare case. Ocean liners, such as the ones you mentioned, like Olympic class, are huge. They are, today they would be multi-billion-dollar investments. And billion-dollar investments are kind of big for a startup museum. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was a well-established museum, I don't know which one it would be. Like, it would have to be a really wealthy museum. But if there was a really, really wealthy museum out there that had the money to construct an ocean liner for museum purposes, then maybe I could see it happening. But it's so very unlikely, I'd like to say no. Just because, just how unlikely it is, you know? As for constructing them to be used as ocean liners, no. Nobody in their right mind would do it. There was that guy and, you know, the, what's his name? I forget his name. The guy who was going to construct the Titanic replica cruise ship. And ever since I was a kid, I'm like, this guy's crazy. Because even as a kid, I knew, I'm like, the average person's not going to want to stay on an ocean liner like those. Maybe us fans would, but the average person would not like their experience being on an ocean liner unless every single room on the ship was redesigned to be larger and have modern accommodations. But if you're going to make a perfect replica, it won't work. And even then, the modern accommodations wouldn't have been that great because he was limiting, you know, the size of the portholes. You know, I think he did say that the portholes on his Titanic were going to be slightly larger so you could see out of them a little bit better. But even then, what people expect on something that expensive today is a nice big view of the ocean. And he wouldn't have been able to provide that. And so the average person, it's funny because they think they know what they want, but they don't know what they want. And you see that when you look at the Yelp reviews of Queen Mary, people who stayed on board. They go, oh, we heard all about this and we were so excited, but it turned out to be this small little room that, you know, we could hear our neighbors. You could hear people walking down the stairs and the hallways. You couldn't see much out of the portholes because the portholes were so small. The room was wood paneled and tiny, and it just felt like a coffin. Like, you hear a lot of that, and it's because those people they see and hear a little bit about the glamour of being on Queen Mary, but they misconstrue what that means, and so when they go and stay on the ship, they're less impressed for those reasons. And you have to remind them, it's like, this is what an ocean liner was, you know. Ocean liners this is what they were, you know. They weren't like cruise ships. And so that's why I don't see them remaking classic ocean liners as modern day vessels that people can go across the ocean. It would just not be a very profitable venture. All right, so ow. So hot. Okay. Yeah, I surpassed my brew time for the tea, but that's okay. I do like the tea kind of strong. This does need to have a little bit of a stir. There. Leave that on the side here. Ah, that lid is so hot. Okay. Move that over here and dump this out. Let me see if I can answer somebody else's question while I do this. RMS Queen Mary says, I also bought a sailboat. Oh, nice. What kind of sailboat? Thank you, Mr. Zantastico. I like this train set. Gosh, that lid is so hot. Make sure that's not in the way. There we go. Disney Fan 2005. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I think the basic answer is this channel is a business. I can't run it for free. I would literally have huge financial issues if I ran it for free. It gets like this when you produce as much content as I do. you kind of fall into this thing where you can no longer afford to make, one video a month. Now you have to make more in order to grow the channel, but you can't grow the channel if you can't make more videos. And when you make more videos, you have the problem of, well, now this takes up all your time and money, and now it's eating into your cash. So there was a time at the beginning of my channel where it was so expensive. It was actually eating into like the money I was making at work. And so this channel is now a business. It's a business of its own. So that's the problem with a business producing stuff that the majority of the viewers don't want to see, is that you lose on the money that it takes to run the business. So that's the problem. Is, yeah, there are core viewers who watch the Disney content, but the problem is that the core viewers who watch that content are so small compared to what the channel needs in order to sustain itself. So that's my thing, is that you can't sustain a business by delivering content that the majority of people don't want. So that's the problem, And that's the problem I faced in 2020. Like I keep saying, in 2020, I really had to make a big decision. It took the whole year to make that decision. It wasn't taken lightly. It took me 12 months to decide. I didn't want to leave the constant production of Disney content. I didn't want to leave it. But the problem was that the viewership on that was dying, and it was getting smaller and smaller. It still is getting smaller and smaller. Every time I produce a Disney video of some kind, I lose like 20 subscribers each time. And it's because the people, they feel like they've already seen it, So you can't run a channel as big as this on only Disney production stuff. So that's the problem. I can't go back to just doing Disney. I can do ocean liners and stuff and a little bit of Disney sprinkled in here and there. But the thing is that I don't know what it is. People just don't come to my channel for Disney anymore. They didn't in 2020 while I was only producing Disney stuff. So things had to change. Life changes. I'm sorry. Things happened to me like, I had to move up here to Portland. I would have otherwise stayed in Orange County. I would have kept visiting Disneyland, made vlogs. I would have, visited the Queen Mary and stuff more often if I had been able to stay down there. But life changes. And I had to adapt because as soon as I moved up here, everything for the channel changed. My viewers were no longer staying. They were all leaving for whatever reason, I don't know. And so I had to make a decision. And it took me 12 months because it was such a hard decision. You can ask all my friends. My friends were like, they saw the issues I was going through. It was not taken lightly. It was a very calculated decision to move away from the Disney content. And I slowly eased into it through 2021. I still produced a lot of Disney content in 2021, but I slowly eased away from it in 2021. And so when 2022 came around, I felt that I could now devote most of my time to other content. So that's the problem. That's the thing. And I feel like I'm only repeating myself. That's the thing, is like I don't want people to think that I'm going to answer these questions over and over in every single live stream, So I hope that's enough to answer your question. I hope that answers everything, So, but all I'm trying to say here is you can't convince me to go back to a weekly or even monthly schedule of Disney content because it will kill the channel. So I can't do that. Let's see. Queen Mary says, did you know Queen Mary had a gallery of ships models and one half is the inside of... one half of the inside of them, I saw it on a vid. Oh yeah, I know the ship model gallery. That was actually pretty cool because when I went with my friends, we didn't expect to see that. And we stumbled upon it on the starboard gallery. And, not gallery, starboard promenade. And we saw that and we were just really amazed because I had never, at that time I had never seen those kinds of ships before. Normandy, And what was it? There was Lusitania there. There was a Titanic. And then there were several other, like, smaller models of other ships that were in that ship model gallery. There was, like, a sailing ship of some kind that I saw. I don't know what that one was, but I have video of it, too. So I took video of a couple of those ocean liners and stuff in that ship model gallery. We were really impressed with that. And it was really fun because, you know, like, I think the ones that are cut in half were created by... I forget his name. He's I think a Catholic priest, and when he was younger, he created those models, and so yeah, he put them on display on Queen Mary, and that's where they are now. But it was really cool seeing all that because I had never seen anything like it in my life. The ability to just kind of peer around the ships and stuff, and you know, it was so cool. It was so cool. All right, bottoms up. M. Brocky says, where do the Queen Mary's big red vents go to today? So the ones you're talking about, they're on top of the superstructure of the ship, on sports deck. There are 8 large ones, and they go to, gosh, I feel like deja vu. That's so weird. Like, I feel like there's a few questions today that I feel like I've already answered, but maybe I didn't. But yeah. Anyway, I'm just having a deja vu moment. But yeah. So there are 8 large vents on the top, huge rectangular ones. Those are the ones that feed the boiler and engine rooms. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so one goes to the water softening plant. Another goes to the boiler room 1, then boiler room 2, turbo generator room forward, boiler room 3, boiler room 4, turbo generator room after, and finally boiler room 5. Yes. So that's where those 8 large vents go to. Is one of them each supplies air to those 8 rooms at the bottom of the ship. And then there are smaller vents on the top of the ship that some of them are rectangular, some of them are round, but they're smaller. Those ones feed the various public spaces on the ship, as well as some cabin staterooms. And so, no, a lot of cabin staterooms, because pretty much every room on the ship has some kind of ventilation. Even if it's not air conditioning, they have some kind of ventilation. So all those other smaller vents all over the ship ventilate other spaces on the ship. So yeah, it's pretty cool. That's what all those vents are for. Let's see. Carl says, was just finishing the cargo holds stream. I am where they removed hatch number 2 and did not know the bridge is not original. So folks, yeah. So I see your question, Carl. Yeah. So the bridge that goes from the superstructure area, like right on A deck, to the forecastle deck, that bridge between those 2 decks over the well deck, it's not original. It was put in when the Queen Mary retired at Long Beach, so that way people could easily get from A deck to the forecastle without having to go down a set of stairs, cross like 10 feet over, and go back up a set of stairs. That would have been really annoying for visitors. So that's what they did. But yeah, you're right. The forecastle deck was not open to passengers. The well deck was open to third-class passengers, but above it on the forecastle deck, it was not open to passengers. It was crew only, and they only used really the forecastle deck when they were at port. They never needed to use it otherwise. Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, that's why. And it's the same thing on Titanic too. The forecastle deck on Titanic was not accessible to passengers. So it's like that on a lot of ocean liners. The forecastle decks on the ocean liners are usually not accessible to passengers, and on some ocean liners, the poop deck is not accessible to passengers. So on like Queen Mary, for instance, the poop deck on Queen Mary was not accessible to passengers, but the poop deck on Titanic was. So it's, yeah, there's a lot of little differences there. Hello Ryan, how's it going? Cunard White Star says, when I went to my Nana and Pop's house a few weeks ago, she showed me all her old teacups and plates, and I saw one with Queen Mary on it, and I thought it was from the ship. But then I realized it was from the monarchy, Queen Mary. Oh yeah, I've seen some of those. Hey Goofy Rolls, how's it going? Hey Mike. Sure. Element says, was there any nuclear-powered ocean liners? I don't think so, because even today, nuclear power for ships is usually reserved for military vessels. So I can't even think of a cruise ship today that has nuclear power. I think it's just military vessels. DNW says, hi Alex, I have something I would love to send you from the Queen Mary. How may I reach out to you? Unfortunately, you can't. I don't have a way for people to send anything to me. I have thought about getting a P.O. box, but I don't earn enough money to actually pay for a P.O. box every month. So, we'll see. Mike says, I'd love to go on the Titanic too. It'd be interesting to see, like, what if they did build it, like, what it would look like. I mean, we've seen like some concept art of the outside of the Titanic too, and it's kind of weird looking, but I wonder if on the inside it would have been kind of like original or something. Octarian says, hey Alex, what's the way the Cunard can have the same fate as the White Star Line? Well, it would have to be similar to what happened to White Star Line, which is, there's a decline in their business for some reason, and then from there, a larger company would have to buy them out. But the funny thing is that they're already bought out. So it kind of already happened, except for the fact that they weren't dissolved, they were kept. So Cunard belongs to Carnival Cruise Line, but Cunard still operates independently of Carnival. It's just that they're owned by Carnival, and the thing is that Cunard has been able to grow. So there was a time when there really wasn't any Cunard ships. It was just Queen Mary 2 and Queen Elizabeth. But now they've grown to a fleet of 4. So Cunard is coming back. They're growing. Mr. Zantastico says, Alex, can you make a video about different ocean liners in Southeast Asia? Because I am just curious. If you cannot do the video, then can you make a video about the Empress of Ireland? We'll have to see. At the moment I don't take requests only because I already have like a year's worth of videos to make. So I've got like all kinds of transatlantic liners that people want me to make videos on and stuff. And then of course I have other ocean liners and things that are not transatlantic that I do have a list of. So anything that anybody suggests to me now would have to be like a year into the future. That's how much stuff I'm backed up on. And I think the first non-Queen Mary ocean liner video I'm going to be making is Oceanic. So this week I'm going to be working heavily on an oceanic video. So yeah, I've got so much lined up. Let's see. Seashells. Oh, okay. That's a really cool, like a little ship model you have, Queen Mary. Mr. PH30 says, heard about a river cruise in Bangladesh. They say it's the best of both eras, the Empire style and current era. Also, some good tea plantations there also. Oh, nice. Hello, Conrad. Ryan says, Alex, I don't know much about trains as you do, but what train is running behind you? So the train running behind me is what's called a Forney-style locomotive. So it has 2 pilot wheels, 4 driving wheels, and 4 trailing wheels behind it. Forney engines are most commonly classified or identified by the fact that they don't pull a tender behind them. Instead, they have a tank behind the back of the engine that holds the water and fuel. So it's all part of one frame. Forneys there were some built for full gauge, especially for large cities and stuff. But I want to say most of the Forneys were constructed for narrow gauge. So small, short line railroads, because they were very good at running short lines. So one of the oldest narrow gauge railroads in the country, and the one that has, I think, only Forney engines, is the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington Railway in Maine. So yeah, that's the engine. That's the engine behind me. But the train that it's pulling is a freight train. So there are 2 box cars, 1 cattle car, 2 gondola cars, and 1 caboose. And then there's a second train way in the background that isn't moving. That is the passenger train. So that has 1 combine car, 2 regular passenger coaches, and 1 private car at the end. I guess it would be an observation car. Yeah, I would have to say it's an observation car at the end. But yeah, that is the extent of my railroad right now. I wanted to expand the railroad with more cars and things, but I'm going to have to build them from scratch because I looked at the prices of buying new rolling stock for this particular scale, and it is exorbitantly expensive. I'm like, it kind of bothers me that when I was a kid, the railroad hobby was easy to get into because it wasn't that expensive. But today it's super expensive. It's unbelievable. So from now on, I'm just going to build the cars myself because it's cheaper than trying to buy one, you know. Sanskruti, I hope I pronounced that right, says, nice train, and I live 12 hours, 30 minutes ahead of Pacific Standard Time, and I saw your Disney content and the other content, and you are very, very entertaining, and your decision is your decision. This channel is yours. But we'll always have subscribers like me. Oh, thank you so much. Let's see. M. Brocky, I know everybody, I'm reading messages that are far behind when you typed them. That's just because I'm trying to keep up. Yeah, M. Brocky, don't worry about the question. I didn't even know you asked it twice. I was thinking it was deja vu because there was another question earlier in the live stream that I felt like I had already read, and I was like, That's weird, but yeah, it's okay. Oh, Conrad confirmed it. It says you did speak on the 8 events recently. Let's see. Mr. PH30 says the channel Titanic Films by Mark. He have many ocean liner documentaries, also many of them not been shown a long time ago. Wait, not been shown a long time. Is it because the channel's defunct or something? And Brocky says, what's the land like under the Queen Mary today? How far is it from the ground? So the Queen Mary today, she sits. It's hard to say because it really depends on the tide, but she generally sits about 12 feet above the bed of the harbor underneath her. Now, outside of the breakwater that surrounds the Queen Mary, the rest of the harbor is just about 30 feet deep. But the Queen Mary has a current draft of about 34 feet. She was built for a 39-foot draft, but she's a bit lighter today, so she's about 35, 34 feet in draft today. So that's actually deeper than the water around her. So in order to put her there, they had to actually carve a trench into the harbor just to fit her in there. And so with that trench, they carved it an extra, extra almost 20 feet. So, yes. So I don't know what it looks like underneath her. I don't think many people really do. The water is so cloudy, you can't really see anything. Not anything more than 10 feet in front of you. So it's nobody really knows what it looks like. I mean, we do know like the shape and stuff. The shape, I think, is there's a bit of an angle from the pier next to her, but then it flattens out very quickly. And then there's the on the other side is the breakwater, which is, pyramid shaped kind of, pyramid prism. So yeah, that's kind of the shape underneath the Queen Mary. On a really, really low tide, I think she sits only about 4 or 5 feet from the harbor. But on a high tide, she can sit, about 16 feet from the harbor. Mr. Misty says, hi, Alex. When the Queen Mary went into retirement, I understand that Cunard had said that she wouldn't be able to sail again. Do you know why they didn't have the same rule for Queen Elizabeth? They did. So the rule isn't necessarily that the ship can never sail again. The rule is that the ships can never sail again as ocean liners. They can't carry passengers, so to speak. So they can't be used to compete against Cunard. So that was the rule. Now, Queen Elizabeth, she was able to sail, but she was never sailed as a passenger ship. She was being converted to a university. And that was, a university doesn't compete with Cunard. So they didn't have a problem with it. So that's why. But the Queen Mary, she still would have been able to sail. They just removed her propulsion system to make the museum that they never actually fully built. But yeah, the Queen Mary, she would be allowed to sail as long as it's not as a passenger ship, as long as it's something else, such as maybe a university. But yeah. So Queen Elizabeth, she did have the same rule. Russell says, why did the number of funnels shrink from 4 to 1 or 2? It has to do with how many boiler rooms and boilers there were on ships. For ships such as Titanic needed, I think it was 29 boilers. Queen Mary had a total of 27 boilers. So, you know, Queen Elizabeth had 12. So as you can tell, there's less boilers because they get more and more efficient. So the more efficient the boilers get, the less of them you need. Though they do get larger as well. So that also plays a part. But Queen Elizabeth only needed 2 because of the fact that, you know, she only had 12 boilers and they were very large. So as for oh darn, I don't know where the question went. But as for like shrinking down from 4 to 1 or 2, it really just depends on what the ship really needs. So it's not necessarily always an aesthetic thing, you know. Matthew says, did you see the Titanic 666 movie? It's so bad. Yeah, that's why I didn't see it. I knew it would be a bad movie. I do not have time to watch bad movies. I don't know if you guys noticed, but in this live stream, I'm actually playing old-fashioned music. People have been suggesting I play music on live streams, but when I play music, it can lead to a copyright strike. So I did lower it really down, but it is playing. I was waiting to see if anybody noticed, but I don't think anybody noticed. For Disney Fan 2005, well, I could move all the content, but it wouldn't help. Because if I moved all the content, it would go from a channel that doesn't have any views. So it'd be like when someone starts a brand new channel from scratch. That's essentially what it would be. No one would watch it. It wouldn't go anywhere. No one would see it. It's still on my channel. Those videos are still on my channel. You can still see them. So there's no point to moving them. And I'm still adding to them, just very slowly. But the other thing too is because all my efforts have been moved mainly to other stuff besides Disney, I literally don't have time in the day to make videos. I mean, I have a second channel called Alex Adner. On the Alex Adner channel, I make all kinds of other types of content. I haven't been able to put out any videos on that channel recently because I've been so busy with this channel. So I actually don't have the time to operate a second channel as much as I would love to, you know. So this channel takes precedence. So even if I made a third channel for Disney content only, it wouldn't make any sense because I wouldn't have time for it, and I get more views from the Disney content on this channel than I would from a brand new channel. Farmer Cameron, yeah, I know what you mean. It is frustrating when people call ocean liners cruise ships, because a lot of people don't know the difference. And they'll even say, oh, same thing, and it's like, no, it's really not. But, you know, people don't know. Luke Michael says, what would it take to sink Queen Mary 2? I mean, an iceberg collision for one thing. It's not a ships are not that hard to sink. Even Queen Mary 2. They protect against as much things as they can, but they're not hard to sink. But yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you exactly what would sink Queen Mary 2. Gabe says, Alex, when a ship is sinking, how long would it take her to break in half? I mean, that really depends on the ship. I mean, there's like a million different factors into like the reason why Titanic broke in half as opposed to going down whole and, you know, all of that. So it really just depends on the forces at work. Every ship is completely different from one another. Well, except for cruise ships. A lot of them are the same. But ocean liners are very different from one another. They all behave differently in a sinking scenario. So, it's Titanic just had a really rare set of like circumstances that led to the ship breaking in half. Because we don't really see that very much. I mean, I can't think of a ship that has broken in half during sinking besides Titanic. I can't think of one. It was just a really, really rare set of circumstances. Jeffrey says, hi Alex, do you think that the Queen Mary will ever have an official YouTube channel? She already does. It's, they don't post very much there, but she does. She has an official YouTube channel. Tyler, it's okay about Disney 2005, Disney Fan 2005. I think that people like Disney Fan 2005, they got really hooked onto the videos I made. It is really hard for people to see a channel that they've been watching for years suddenly change. It's been really hard on a lot of people, you know, including like one of my friends, Eric. He started off as like my biggest fan, and I ended up meeting him in person, and ever since we've been like really good friends. And well, we're actually like best friends now, but yeah, and even in 2020 when I switched away from Disney content and focused more on this stuff, it was hard for him because he started off as literally my biggest fan. So yeah, it has been hard on a lot of people because, like even speaking from my own experience watching other channels that I'm into, sometimes they have to change, like there was a channel I was watching because I don't know if most people know this, but I'm really into the Jim Henson movie, The Dark Crystal. And so I was really into like all the new TV shows, like the Age of Resistance, and then they have like their comics and everything. I was really into all that stuff. And there was this channel, and that's still around, but they produced a lot of Dark Crystal stuff. But what happened was after the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance was canceled from Netflix, the content creator for that channel, he had to face the fact that he couldn't keep making content for it because the popularity was dying down again. There was no new, fresh stuff to talk about on that channel. So he had to change. And I remember watching that and going, I was so disappointed, like not in the creator, but disappointed that there wasn't new content, because I really liked that channel. It was always nice to go back to that channel every week and see a new video. And so that's what happens is like someone like me does Disney content for like 4 years, and then all of a sudden things change and people, they can't get over it, And I try to do what I can, I'm not 100% stopping Disney content. I'm just slowing it down to like a snail's pace because I can't produce it all the time anymore if no one's going to watch it. So, yeah, it's, yeah, that's kind of, what's going on here. M. Brocky says, do you have any time-lapse videos of the Queen Mary bobbing up and down If you do, can you email it to me? I don't have any. It would be nice to take a time lapse, but I'd have to sit out there for hours. I don't think I could do that. But for people that want to see the Queen Mary rise and fall, there is kind of a way you can do it already. On my Queen Mary virtual tour video, the one where I take 45 minutes and I kind of give you a virtual tour of the whole ship, the beginning of that video shows me looking at the aft gangways. The aft gangways at the beginning of the video, in daytime, are like raised up towards the ship. The ship is rising a little bit, and so the gangways are like pointed up towards the ship. At the end of the video, I look back at that same area at nighttime, and you can see the gangways are more like flat, probably even a little bit sloped downwards towards the ship. And that shows that during the day, when the tide fell a little bit, the ship actually dropped by like a foot or two. And so that's the only evidence I can show you guys from my channel that the ship rises and falls with the tide. So, but I don't have time lapse. And time lapse would be hard to get. I wouldn't want to sit out there for hours to get time lapse of it, but maybe somebody will. Farmer Cameron says, why did they not keep more ocean liners like the Queen Mary? It would have been neat. Mainly, you have to look at, instead of asking, like, why didn't they keep more of them, what we should be asking is, why did they keep few of them? And that will answer your question. And the reason why is because when you look at the ships the ocean liners that are still around, or at least were saved originally, you look at Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, and SS United States. Those are like the three most popular ocean liners that we know of that have been saved. And when you ask, why were they saved, you get your answer. The Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth and SS United States were saved because they were the world's most famous ocean liners. The most famous ocean liners in the world. That's why they were saved. And then they were converted to do other things. Well, at least Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth were. They were converted to do other things. And Queen Mary is, the one that's still around, mostly. SS United States is still around, but gutted. But yeah, that's why. Because even when ocean liners were all being retired in the late 1960s, people saw ocean liners mainly, not the famous ones, but most ocean liners back then were seen as just outdated and obsolete. And so even into the 1970s, people were just kind of like, it's just an ocean liner, and those don't matter anymore. You know what I mean? But the most famous ships, like Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, and SS United States, they were world famous. They had a history that preceded them, and so they were saved because of their fame. And that's why. But before the 1960s, things like Olympic, for instance, a lot of people ask me why wasn't Olympic saved. It really depends on the time, like which ship you're talking about and what time it was in when it was being scrapped or whatever. But the reason why Olympic in the end was never saved was because there just wasn't enough interest. I'm sure if there was enough interest, they would have found the funding to purchase the ship and keep it. But there wasn't enough interest. And the reason why was because, at least back then, ocean liners were a dime a dozen. So even though Olympic was a very, very famous ocean liner, and so was Mauretania, very, very famous ocean liner, people just thought, well, another better ocean liner will come. There's no point in preserving something when better ocean liners are produced every day. And that's just kind of how things were. And so it's the same reason why in the United States old houses are torn down, old buildings are torn down, because we take for granted that another better building will be constructed tomorrow. And so, yeah, it wasn't until, by the 1980s that people started to really appreciate what ocean liners were left. People were kind of like, you know what? After 10 years of not seeing ocean liners really running around the world, except for Queen Elizabeth and, and a couple others, people started to appreciate them. Because as far as I know, the first decade of the QE2's life wasn't super successful. But by the 1980s, that started to pick up in a big way. And by the 1990s, she was an immensely world-famous popular ship, and partially world-famous because of her war duty as well. So that's kind of my long-winded way of answering that. Brocky says that they hear the old-fashioned music in the background. Oh, Andy, that's awesome. Your girlfriend noticed the music as she was walking by. That's cool. Okay, so everybody heard the music in the background immediately. Oh, okay. Let's see. Sanskriti says, Alex, what is your thoughts on elephants? Because we here in India see them as majestic and sacred creatures. Yeah, I love elephants. There's a channel that I watch occasionally. I can't remember the name at the moment, but it's in what country? Oh my gosh, I don't even remember the country now. Well, anyway, it's an elephant rescue channel, and it's in a South Asian country. I don't remember which one. Yeah, and but it's great. They have this elephant sanctuary and stuff. So I love elephants. I wouldn't want to stand right next to one though, because they're huge and they scare me. But I love elephants. M. Brocky, yeah, I do hate it when people call every ship Titanic, yeah. Mr. Misty says, I got in trouble once for winning an argument with a teacher that Titanic wasn't a cruise ship. If you got in trouble, I don't think you won the argument. Hey, Mike, how's it going? RMS Queen Mary says, how many watertight doors does the Queen Mary 2 have? Ooh, I don't know, actually. Yeah, I don't know what the Queen Mary 2 has. The original Queen Mary had 38 watertight doors. I think that's what Conrad's saying, and I think that might be right. I'm gonna take a wild guess here for the original Queen Mary had 38 watertight doors. Because that sounds like a number that makes sense for me. Let's see. Alright, Sanskruti says, you said my name correctly, Alex. Oh, good. Okay, I hope. I'm always trying to pronounce everybody's names correctly. Mr. Misty says, are there any updates on Queen Mary's lifeboats? No, unfortunately, there hasn't been a single update about Queen Mary all this month. I've been looking. I've been asking. There's nothing to tell about the Queen Mary this month. So there's still a few days left in the month. I still might have time to make an update if stuff comes out, but at the moment there's no updates on the Queen Mary. So Gavin says, is that a small tank engine going full speed? It is a small tank engine, but it's not going full speed. It's going at a very slow speed. It's going at what we call a prototypical speed, which means that it's going the speed it would be if it was, you know, in scale size. So I don't like to run the trains at high speed. First of all, because they're models, not toys, so they are a bit more fragile than toys. And running them at full speed can eventually wear them out and damage them. So I run them at prototypical speeds. But also because it would just be very loud to run that engine at full speed all the way around the track constantly. So it's going at a prototypical speed. All right. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, Disney Fan 2005. You know, the world operates on on money. I don't know what to tell you. Like it, you know, like whenever I do produce Disney content from now on, it's going to be for fun, not for, you know, not for money, because I don't make money off of them. That's for sure. So, you know, like the next one I have planned is one on the Rivers of America at Disneyland, so I can talk about the Mark Twain riverboat and the sailing ship Columbia. I think my ocean liner fans would actually really like to learn about those two ships at Disneyland. They're very interesting. But yeah, I can't do it on a constant thing. I didn't stop making Disney content. I just am not making it on the same schedule as I used to. Let's see. John was Queen Mary air conditioned at the time of her launch, or was it added later? So she was partially air conditioned at the time of her launch. So the ship has never been fully air conditioned. Not even today, she's not fully air conditioned. But when she launched, the main public spaces were air conditioned. So the main hall, the first class main lounge, first class smoking room, first class restaurant, second class smoking room, second class main lounge, second class overflow lounge, third class main lounge, third class smoking room, you know, tourist class smoking room, you know. So all the big public spaces were air conditioned. When she came to Long Beach, they added more air conditioning, so that way they could air condition the remaining staterooms that they use as hotel rooms. So I gotta drink some of this tea. So the hotel rooms you can stay on the Queen Mary when she reopens, there's about 300 some odd of them, and they're all first and second class staterooms that have been converted. All those have some form of air conditioning. They never used to. They didn't add air conditioning until after the ship came to Long Beach. Because part of the reason why the Queen Mary never really needed air conditioning was because she was designed for the North Atlantic. And North Atlantic, for most of the year, is freezing cold. Freezing cold. What you really need is heaters, not air conditioners. So the Queen Mary was fully equipped with heaters all over the ship. All electric heaters. There was only one coal-burning fireplace, and that was in the first-class smoking room. But otherwise, the ship was fully equipped with heaters. But they didn't really need air conditioning. It wasn't until World War II, when the Queen Mary was going through tropical oceans and seas, that the heat really started to get to people who were on board. You know, there were stories of the men and women who were on board in World War II, like cramming, you know, the first class main lounge, cramming, you know, the large open spaces on the ship that were air conditioned, because they were the coolest part of the ship. But even then, those air conditioners weren't designed for the heat of the tropics. So those rooms really were only marginally cooler than the rest of the ship. And yeah, but it's amazing. Like the ship got so hot. They would during World War II, they would use the wind scoops that the ship had. They had these plastic wind scoops that you could get from the stewards, and they would put the wind scoops in the portholes because as the ship moved, it would scoop the air and bring it in. And so, yeah, it was some pretty crazy stories. And there was even a funny one. I didn't get to put in my World War II video, but there's a funny little anecdote, which is they were going through the Red Sea. It was so hot that one of the crewmen saw the captain walking around and asked the captain, no, this wasn't during World War II. Never mind. This was actually, this was on the last great cruise, which is literally the last voyage the Queen Mary took to get to Long Beach. She had to sail around Cape Horn and come back up. And as they were passing over the equator, one passenger on the ship, it was so hot. It was like 110 degrees Fahrenheit on the ship. They saw the captain walking around, and they asked the captain. They said, I think they were in the first class main restaurant, and they said, Captain, what rooms on this ship are air conditioned? And the captain said, you're standing in it. Because it was so hot, the ship's air conditioning couldn't keep up. So, but yeah, the ship has never been fully air conditioned. Even today, she's not fully air conditioned. Evan Scott says, good video yesterday on the Queen Mary. Thank you. Transatlantic Scottish Line says, this stream has been over an hour so far. Yeah, it's, these streams usually go 2 hours because I just sit here talking to people. Conrad says, is the Queen Mary newly for sale, or is that the leasee being looked to replace the present that was announced in 2021? The Queen Mary is not for sale. The city of Long Beach is they would never get rid of the Queen Mary. They need the Queen Mary. So but there is currently no leasee for the Queen Mary. I don't think they're looking for one, honestly, because the last leasee left the ship and the city in such bad condition that that they have a bad taste in their mouth left from that. So they are currently not looking for another leasee for the Queen Mary. They're looking to try to find a different way for the ship to be managed. But time will tell if there will be another leasee. Let's see. I'm trying to skip ahead to the latest comments. Oh, hey there, Steve. How's it going? John Johnson says, Titanic 2 is being built by Clive Palmer, apparently. No, unfortunately, that was canceled last year. They finally officially canceled it last year. Since I was a child, Clive Palmer has been saying he's going to build Titanic 2, and I knew even as a kid that's not going to happen. It's just not a profitable venture. So, and it turned out to be right. He never could even get the ship started. He had, I don't even think he had blueprints even created for it. It was just what's the word? Concept art. That's all that was ever shown, was concept art of the ship. Conrad said cars from the 70s had wings or winglets, that scooped in hot air. Better than no air conditioning at all. Yeah, that's true. Alright, time to have some of these things. Oh, Tyler, awesome. Thanks. Yeah, Steve says, Clive Palmer is a nutcase. Yeah, he is a very eccentric, very eccentric person. It's like I said, I knew ever since I was a kid, I was like, that's not gonna be a profitable business. He's never gonna be able to build that thing because, I mean, even as a kid, I knew. I'm like, ocean liners would not be able to compete with cruise ships. Cruise ships are just more profitable. Brocky says, I'm making a wooden Queen Mary model that can float. Oh, wow. You'll have to send me pictures of that when you're done. I'd love to see that. Someone, a Frenchman who watches my channel sent me pictures of his models of Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth that he built out of wood and cardboard, and they look amazing. I haven't been able to respond to him yet, but I will after the stream. But the models he built look amazing. He says it took him years to do it. I believe it. They are so detailed. It makes me want to build a Queen Mary model of my own out of wood because I can't find a good looking Queen Mary model kit that is accurate but yet affordable. You know, they don't produce Queen Mary model kits anymore. Luke Michael says, would White Star Line still be making model ships if they didn't merge with Cunard? Or not model ships. We'll still be making ships if they didn't merge with Cunard. I don't know. I don't think so. Most of those old ocean liner companies were eventually bought out by other companies. You know, even Cunard is no longer wholly owned. Now, Carnival owns them. And it's only lucky that Carnival decided to let them stay, you know, as their own company. Look at what Cunard did to White Star Line. Cunard, after they merged, eventually absorbed White Star Line, and White Star Line just disappeared. So it's amazing that didn't happen to Cunard. So, I don't know. I don't think it would have happened, honestly. Mike says squeaky. Yeah, that's my nickname for this engine. I call it squeaky because it's so squeaky. Here, what I'll do is I will swap it out with another engine. Okay, so I have to reverse this. go. I gotta give this switch track a quick scrubbing because I can see that the engine wants to stop on it. All right. Back to what we were doing. Steve, this is ON30. Let's see, back to where I was. Boy, I missed out a lot. Cunard White Star Line says, Clive Palmer now wants to start his own government. Wow. Oh my gosh. Carl says, I can't believe that it can't be run as a museum hotels with all original features the boat had in the USA. So many people, why it can't be profitable. I'm not sure what ship you're talking about. Conrad says, how many cars do you think your engine can pull all day long? Both my engines, even the small one that's running right now, is capable of pulling all the cars I have on this. So I have yet to find the limit. I don't know the limit because I don't have enough cars to test the limit. But this little engine is called a porter. Very tiny. They were usually used for hauling small sets of cars from like one area to another, but not across like great distances, just very short distances. But this model of this engine is very strong. It could pull all the cars on this whole set. But I do notice that when I did test it, pulling all 4 of the cars in the background plus the 6 that it's currently hauling, the wheels do slip a little bit when that happens. And I don't want the wheels to slip because it can grind down the wheels over time. So I limit how many cars it pulls for like realism and also for the protection of the wheels. Time for more tea. Okay. It's funny because so I grew up in Southern California, and and I would say down there a warm day would be like 80, 85 degrees, right? That would be what most people would consider a warm day, 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit in Southern California. But it's usually so cold up here in Portland that it's like cold most of the year. It almost never reaches those temperatures. Only in summer does it reach 80 degrees. And the funny thing is that today it is 65 degrees outside, but I could swear that it feels like it's 80 degrees outside to me. But that's because I'm used to Southern California. When I feel heat like this now, with all this cold climate up here, it feels like a warm day, but by no means is 65 degrees Fahrenheit a warm day. So that's the funny part, is I'm like sitting here, I'm not breaking out a sweat, but I feel on the edge of breaking a sweat. And that's the funny part. I'm just not used to how cold it usually is up here. All right. The tea is prepared. Tyler says, the Queen Mary virtual tour is by far my favorite of Alex. Already saw it 8 times. Wish I could go to Queen Mary, my home, I think is what you said, Long live RMS Queen Mary. Yeah, that video, I made that tour video not just for people, but for myself as well, because I couldn't find anything like that on YouTube. Like, there wasn't anything like that on YouTube where someone walked through the various rooms and then explained what you're looking at. The closest thing you could get is, like, there's a few videos where someone recorded a tour that they paid for, but it's not the same. So I thought, well, I have really good footage of the ship. I have 4K footage, high definition, you know, really good color quality, and the image isn't distorted with, like, a fish bulb lens. So, fisheye lens, I mean. So I thought, well, I have the footage and I have the knowledge now. I can make a video just like the one I want to see. So that's what I did. So my Queen Mary virtual tour video is at the moment, I think, the only video of its kind on YouTube for Queen Mary. And I made it because I really wanted one, you know? So I love that video. There's still a few flaws here and there. Like, I accidentally said that the ship's hull was built with 1 million rivets. I meant to say 10 million, but I was tired. I read the number wrong. And there were a few things here and there that I said that, you know, it's a little inaccurate, but most of it's very accurate. And so that's why I'm like, I'm not bothered too much by it. But I love that video. I still watch my Queen Mary tour video on occasion just for fun, because I love it. And I can't wait to make more. I plan to make more. I plan to make a video for every deck on the ship, but I can't do that until I film it. So I have to go to the Queen Mary eventually when she reopens and film every deck on the ship, so that way I can make videos like that. And I can make tons of other videos out of that too. So not just tour videos, but I can use the footage that I film of every deck on the ship to create more tiny Queen Mary videos for you guys that really get into the nitty-gritty of the ship. Mr. Misty says, I always wanted to build an obnoxiously large Titanic model. It would have to live outside. Steve says his version of Titanic 2 is going to be fat, bloated version. It was determined that the length, width, and being lighter weight with new propulsion machinery would not be stable. Yeah, I couldn't have imagined it being stable. Yeah, he was going to widen the hull for stability so it wouldn't roll as much. But then also the draft would be raised up higher so he could get it into cruise ports. And it was just all these alterations to it. It just would have, ugh. Conrad says White Star would have gone bankrupt, and I would have to say, yeah, I think eventually White Star would have gone bankrupt. I feel like sorry, I'm just reading people's comments to see if there's one that I could respond to, but it's just a lot of just conversation happening. Steve says ON30 as opposed to ON3. Yeah, ON3 is very custom built. Nobody currently, like no big company makes ON3 stuff. So ON30 is what's built by large companies. So Bachmann, which makes a lot of different trains and different scales, they were producing ON30 stuff. So the reason why it's ON30 is because it runs off of HO scale gauge rails. So these tracks on my layout are HO scale tracks, and the ON30 trains run on HO scale. ON3 cannot run on HO scale tracks. They have to be widened. and that means custom doing it. And then the engines and everything for ON3 are also custom. You have to modify them to make them fit. And I don't have those skills to modify cars and engines to fit on a custom track. So I went with ON30 because I can buy the cars and rolling stock. Now, I could build certain cars myself. Like, I can build flat cars, I can build gondola cars, I could build some, some cars myself. But I can't build the wheels and the trucks. Those I have to purchase. So I went with ON30 because you can purchase stuff for it. It's widely available, for the most part. So yeah, I love ON30 because, well, first of all, I love narrow gauge trains. But second of all, what I love about ON30 is it's small enough that I can fit it in my apartment, but large enough that the machinery doesn't break so easily. I've had HO scale in the past. I've had N scale in the past. I always love running steam, but steam engines in those two scales, they break so easily from just various wear and tear and stuff like that. And you can fix them up, but unless you're like god level, like modeler, then for people like me, it's really hard to fix those things up. Like, I have some 440s in N scale, love them to death, but they don't run very well. And they're the top of the line. They just don't run very well because it's such a small scale. So I got tired of it, like, I remember, like, I have 3 440s in N scale, not because I wanted 3. I only wanted 1, but it was starting to get old and running inefficiently, so I bought a second one. The second one did not work out of the box. And I tried to sell it, and people were like, it works, it's such a small scale, and it's so cruddy that it just doesn't do what you want it to do. And so I was like, oh boy. And so I bought a third one, hoping that the third one would be like the first one, where it worked. The third one did not work out of the box either. So after that, I just said, I'm done with N scale. I'm done, because I love steam, and the only thing I can run in N scale is diesel, and I don't want to run diesel. So ON30 is large and heavy, and the parts are more robust, so they run very well, very efficiently. The electrical pickup is phenomenal because the engines are so big, they cover more square inches on the track, so they get very good electrical pickup. So, but the N scale steam engines, oh my gosh, they only had enough wheels to pick up about an inch of track. So if that was an inch of track that was not very conductive for some reason, like a switch isn't very conductive, the train would just constantly stop. It got me so frustrated. I was done with N scale. And HO scale was hardly different. The 440s and HO scale had some of the same problems. They were larger than N scale, but not large enough. So, yeah, I love ON30. Carl, that is a very difficult question to read. I think what you're asking was, the Queen Mary was open at one point, but now it's closed, and you're wondering why. The Queen Mary closed for the pandemic. She was open before the pandemic, but during the pandemic, the company that was leasing her and operating her under that lease went bankrupt. And after that, the city of Long Beach tried to reopen the ship, but it needed major repairs that hindered its opening. So they couldn't reopen the ship unless those repairs are made. So those repairs are currently underway. M. Brocky says, what started the Queen Mary is haunted trend? Disney. When Disney was the leaseholder for Queen Mary in between 1989 and 1992, they were looking for ways to make the ship more popular. So they decided to break away from the usual tourist stuff that is proven successful, and decided that they were going to market the ship as a haunted hotel. And that's where it all started. That's the baseline for most of the ghost stories, was created in 1989. Literally, the baseline of most of the ghost stories on the ship created in 1989. And ever since then, it's grown. So they've just kept adding more to the ship's reputation and to the ship's stories and to the ship's offerings to make it a year-round haunted hotel. Everyone's talking to each other. Interactive Realm says, every deck, including the poop deck? Yes, Jason, including the poop deck. But yeah, I want to film every deck on the Queen Mary that I can, if I can, so that way I can make videos all about the ship. I need that footage, otherwise I can't make the videos. Matthew says, would you be allowed to see every deck on the Queen Mary? Certain decks, no. Like, D deck, for instance, is 100% closed off to me. Well, I guess it's not called D deck, is it? It's called C deck. C deck is 100% closed off to me. D deck is 100% closed off. E deck, part of it is closed off. Some of it is museum space, so I can still film the museum space. F deck is like basically the cargo areas, and then there's the steering gear room, which is on F deck. I can film the steering gear room. G deck is more like forward cargo areas. Can't film that. H deck. Well, H deck? No, H deck is tank tops. So G deck is the last one. So yeah, so G deck is the one where all the boilers and everything were located on and all that. There are areas that were open to tours, so I can still film that. So I can only film the areas of the ship that are open. And who knows, I know some people who might be able to get me into the back areas of the ship. If they can do that, I'll try to film that. But I'm going to film everything I can. And that's a big deal because even the decks that are open to people don't always have rooms that are open to people. But I'm going to try to get those rooms and video them. So we'll see. Mark says, have you heard anything new about Titanic Honor and Glory? Yes. They are currently working on a 5th update to their Titanic 401 game, the demo. And the 5th update will include the coal bunker spaces and the crew areas, the crew quarter areas and mess halls, if you can believe it. Yeah, so that's gonna be part of their update number 5. And I'm really looking forward to that because it will be really the only crew spaces we can explore on the Titanic. So some really interesting spaces that, you know, like I'm excited, but I don't know when they're gonna do the 5th update. But I'm waiting. I'm waiting, and I'm gonna show it on my channel. Yeah, the stern of the ship is called the poop deck because it's actually so it started off originally as a French term, le poop, which is not spelled the same way as poop that we would spell it, but le poop means the back or the stern, and so that's why they call it the poop deck. It's just been shortened to the English term poop, P-O-O-P, but it was le poop. I think it was P-O-U-P. Yeah, le poop. So, oh, Jason, thanks. Yeah, I love running this thing. Every once in a while I look over and just enjoy watching it go around. Mark says, do they build a good representation of the Disneyland locomotives in HO? I don't believe there are any Disneyland locomotives in HO, but there are Disneyland locomotives in N scale. I'll go get one right now. Give me a second. So, I still have my N-scale CK Holiday locomotive that Disney released in 2010, I want to say. Is the date on here? I don't think it is. I think it was 2010 when they released this. I'm not going to take it fully out of the box, but I'll try to show it to you. So this is N scale. For reference, this engine from the wheels to the top of the smokestack is about 1 inch tall, which is just about 3 centimeters tall. So yeah, that's the CK Holiday engine in N scale. Oh, oops. Keep tilting it. So yeah, this engine, oh, it's amazing. So when I got this engine, it ran very well for 6 or 7 years. Yeah, so I think I got it in 2010, and it ran until just about 2017, just about. And I loved it. It was very reliable. Oh, I gotta put the other cover on it. Very reliable. But the problem with these engines is that they weigh so little that they don't pull as much weight as... It doesn't pull as many cars, I should say. It doesn't pull as many cars as the real-life version could. So the real-life version can pull... I've seen the CK Holiday pull 10 cars that are empty 10 empty cars. But this engine weighs so little, it could only pull about 8 empty cars, which is still good. But here's the problem. It pulls 8 empty cars using traction tires that are put on the wheels. Now, real steam engines don't use rubber tires because they weigh so much, the rubber would be obliterated. Just obliterated. They weigh so much, so they don't use rubber in real life. They're steel wheels. But for N scale, they don't get enough traction because the engine doesn't weigh enough. So for N scale, they put these little rubber tires on them. So that way it gets more grip on the rails and it can pull more engines that way. Thing is, after 6 years of running this, the rubber on the tires wore out and it just fell off. It just wore out completely. So I bought this material that you paint on the circumference of the wheel and it dries into a rubber. And the rubber adds traction. Well, the problem was that rubber eventually stops being friction-y. It becomes smooth eventually because it gets covered in dirt and grime over the years. And so after a year, it stopped being, properly rubbery. And it was really difficult to apply that rubber paste in the first place. So when it was time to replace the paste and paint a new layer, I just said I'm not going to do it because it was so difficult to paint that layer in the first place because it's goopy. Like, it doesn't want to smooth out. It wants to to get lumpy, and that makes your engine just shake and rattle down the rails. So I just said in 2017, I said I'm retiring this engine. I'm not running it anymore. So in 2017, I completely retired this engine. I don't run it anymore. I bought another engine to replace it. That engine, right out of the box, didn't get very good power pickup. As soon as I tried putting it on the tracks, it could not pick up very good power. It just constantly stopped on the tracks all the time. Because the only thing that picks up power on these little engines is the tender. Now, the tender is no more than 1 inch long. That's the tender there. That's the only thing the tender is the only thing that picks up power on this engine. And the tender is only 1 inch long. So when it goes over switch tracks, there's a gap in the switch tracks where there's no power. So that way, the engine doesn't short circuit the rails. But every time the other engines, not this one, but every time the other 2 engines I bought went over switches, they stopped. Or if the tracks were even mildly dirty, they just didn't run because they couldn't get good power pickup. So I just got tired of running N-scale steam, and HO scale wasn't where it needed to be either. I wanted to run engines that didn't need traction tires. I wanted to run engines that had steel wheels that could last for years and years and years. So I went with ON30, and I have never looked back since. I love ON30. My engines run beautifully, and they pull a lot of weight, so I like that. Let's see. Oh, Conrad, you're testing the time it takes for the 2 to get around. Well, they're not running at the same speed. I'll tell you that much. I'm running the Porter just a little bit faster. And the reason why I'm running it faster is because the Porter weighs less, so it needs a little bit more momentum to get around areas of tight curves. So I run it a little bit faster, so it has just a little more momentum to get around the curves before it gets to another straight section. So it could run slower. Not that it can't. It could run slower. I don't know. I guess I just didn't put it slower. Tyler says, I'm concerned about the Queen Mary's pool. Should it ever collapse, would the ship be deemed unsafe? No, because the pool cannot collapse anywhere. It's there's 2 layers to the pool. There's the pool tank, the thing that you would swim in. Then there's the cofferdam around the pool. The cofferdam is a steel box that the pool tank is encased in. If the pool tank collapsed, it would just collapse and get to the bottom of the cofferdam. The cofferdam is just a structure that holds the tank. So there would be nowhere for it to collapse to. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't like drop to the bottom of the ship, like, because the cofferdam is there. So, so yeah, there's no worry of that. It wouldn't make the whole ship deemed unsafe at all, because it would only collapse about 4 feet. That's it. There's only a 4-foot gap between the bottom of the pool tank and the surface of the cofferdam, so it only dropped 4 feet. That's it. No issues for the ship as a whole. All right, see you later, Steve. Yeah, Cunard White Star, I see it. Yeah, it gets hot in that room. Let's see. Leah says, this is making my night. Oh, good. Well, we'll be ending the stream soon, so I gotta finish these pastries. RMS Queen Mary says, where can I send you a picture of my ships? You can send them to my email. My email is in the description below. What if somehow the Titanic wreck washed up in New York City without breaking apart? That would be a miracle. But it'd be fun, because then people could take that wreck and then turn it into a museum. Yeah, Tyler, the pillars in the turbo generator room that are cut off don't support the pool. Thankfully, the people who carved into the boiler rooms of the ship, they knew not to carve through support structures. So the stuff that is carved through and cut up is not structural support for the ship. So there's no worry about the pool isn't collapsing because there's a lack of support underneath. That's not the case. Like, a lot of people think that's what's going on. They think, oh, the pool is collapsing because they carved and cut through all the bulkheads, and that's not why. That has nothing to do with the swimming pool. The swimming pool is collapsing because for years it was filled with water, and the swimming pool tank is made of steel. So the steel was just rusting away, and now it has like no structure support to it at all. It's just sagging. So I'm going to be making a video soon about the swimming pool and talking about what's going on with it and why it is the way it is. So you'll have to wait for that. Cunard White Stallion says, would there be any chance of any second or third class spaces being restored on the Queen Mary? There are some second class spaces that are so close that you could restore them for a small amount of money. Like, no joke, like there are some second class spaces that give it like $2,000 and you could have it fully restored. Wouldn't be too much. But third class is a different story. There are some third class spaces that would take significant investment, like tens of thousands, to restore. Is there a chance it could be done? No, there's always a chance, but is there a likelihood of it happening anytime soon? No. Cunard White Strongline says, I have to go at 11 a.m. because it's Remembrance Day here in Australia. A day when we stop for a minute and remember those people who fought in all the wars. That's really nice. Yeah, this stream is going to end within 10 minutes. So, hey Glenn, good to see you here. I'm just going to finish these pastries, answer some last questions before we go. I think some of the spaces would be great to restore, but when I say that, I don't mean all the spaces, because it wouldn't be necessary to restore all the third class, like cabins, for instance, because they all look the same. So it wouldn't actually help to restore all those. But it would be nice to restore like a small group of them, so people can see what like a typical like stateroom corridor looks like, and the staterooms themselves. Oh, okay. See you later, RMS Queen Mary. Yeah, Brocky, let me know if it floats on the first step. But yeah, it would be nice to restore some of the representations of the areas on the ship, and restore other areas like the third class dining room, restore the second class dining room, you know, that kind of thing. I'd like to see a brand new second class pool built, and maybe built to some modern safety codes, so that way they can use it as a hotel pool. That would be really cool. They could really use a hotel pool. Cunard White Star says, I think the easiest space to restore on the Queen Mary is to put the original window back on the front of the ship where the observation bay is. Like on the promenade area that used to be like where the observation bar is now. Oh, I think that is what you're saying. Observation bay, you meant observation bar. I wouldn't say that's easy. That would probably cost several thousand. The easiest space to restore on the Queen Mary right now, there's a couple of them. The second class library is a space that still exists, but people can't go and see. For less than $2,000, you could restore that space because all the wall paneling, everything is still in there. It just needs to be spruced up and made, like, I'm not even kidding, it's that close to being restored. It just needs to be spruced up and have its original light fixture reinstalled. They still have the light fixture on the ship. It's just not there. So for less than $2,000, you can restore that little area, and you can have the second class library back. That's how easy that would be. No major work has to be done in that area because almost everything is still there. Another really cheap area to restore would be the third class synagogue. The synagogue, all of its furnishings still exist. They're not on the ship. They're in other places, but they do exist, and those places would be willing to give back the synagogue items as an exhibit on the Queen Mary. So the synagogue could be restored for about $2,000, as long as those items are donated back to the ship. The third class nursery could easily be restored. It wouldn't take much, and most of the third class nursery items still remain on the ship, like the toys and everything. They're still on the ship. They're just not in the nursery. So so that could easily be restored for a very cheap amount of money, not even $2,000. So there's quite a few spaces on the ship that could easily be restored very cheaply. The observation bar area with the old promenade, that would cost thousands, and frankly, it probably wouldn't help that much to restore it. It probably would be a little bit of a waste of money, only because, you'd have to remove the restaurants on the starboard promenade just to make that area viable. Because no one needs to cross in front of the observation bar anymore. There's no need to do that. So, yeah. But yeah, those are just some of the spaces that are cheap to restore. Everybody's talking about the time. Yeah. So, here's what's going on this week. Let's see, today's Sunday, so Tuesday is going to be another little mini video. Wednesday is the next tea time. Let's see, yeah, tea time is at 4 p.m. Pacific time, so same time as today, just Wednesday. Friday will be a history video, like a documentary. I have an idea of what it may be. I already kind of know what I'm going for, but if it takes more time than it should, it may have to wait. But there is going to be a video on Friday. Saturday is going to be a live stream, just me, with you guys, and we'll be talking about we'll be comparing some of the Queen Mary's interior spaces to the Queen Elizabeth's interior spaces. So that's Saturday. And then finally Sunday is another tea time. So that is the schedule for this week. Brocky says, why was Queen Mary's Promenade only one side and not the other? It was. It was a full loop all the way around the entire superstructure of the ship. It went from the promenade on port side, it crossed over to starboard side at the aft, came all the way back up in front of the observation bar, went around the observation bar, and then came back to the port side. So it was a full loop. When the Queen Mary came to Long Beach, they didn't need the promenade. It wasn't necessary anymore. So they converted the starboard side of the promenade into a bunch of restaurants and office spaces. Meeting spaces, I mean. And then the observation bar, they expanded the observation bar into the promenade, the forward promenade, so that way they could add more seats. So it was a full loop. It's just not in Long Beach because they don't need it to be. Yeah, Glenn, I agree. They should spend money on these old ocean liners before they're gone forever, you know? The problem is that most businesses today don't have imagination. You know, it's good that they're very profit and data oriented in some ways because that keeps them afloat, but they don't have the imagination to know what to do with an ocean liner. They've never encountered anything like it before. So they look at these ocean liners and they go, well, we don't know how to make those work. We don't know how to make them profitable. And it's like, you could make them profitable as museum ships if you have some imagination. You know, Disney's getting rid of a bunch of Imagineers. Hire some of them up and say, help us figure out what to do with these ocean liners. So, you know, Disney Imagineers are used to thinking outside the box and coming up with creative solutions. I love these trains. Alrighty. Finish off this last bit of tea. Exokelic says, what's your favorite pre-Lusitania Cunard liner? Pre-Lusitania, I would say from Cunard, the Campania. The Campania was a blue ribbon holder from 1894, I want to say. Yeah, so I like the Campania. M. Brocky, this channel is my job. It's a full-time job. I eat, sleep, and breathe this channel day and night. I do nothing but make videos for this channel every day. I haven't had a day off in a long, long, long time. So that's why it's very important to me that when I put out a video that everybody gives it a try. See if they like the videos that I put out, because it is my job. But let's see. Element says, what's the most successful ocean liner? Oh, that's hard to say, because it depends on how you measure success. Some people think success is popularity. Some people think success is profitability. Some people think success is operationality. I think I just made up that word. But each liner has something different that makes them the most successful. So, you know, hard to say. I mean, Queen Mary 2 is the most successful ocean liner for being a cruising ocean liner, because it's designed to be able to cruise. RMS Queen Mary, it should be at the bottom of the description of the video. It should be like one of the last things there. Let me see. Yep, it's there. Yeah, it's in the description of the video. All right, so back to live chat real quick. Oh, this is an interesting question. Conrad says, what do you think about a theater on board like Circle Vision showing a virtual short portion of an Atlantic crossing? That would be kind of cool. Then people could kind of understand what the Atlantic crossing would have looked like. That'd be really cool. And there's probably a space up on the top decks of the ship where they could actually install that. I bet there is. That'd be pretty cool. RMS Queen Mary, you have to exit out of the chat. When you exit out of the chat, you'll see that next to the title of the video, Cunard Afternoon Tea with Alex, there's a little drop-down arrow. You click the drop-down arrow, that brings you to the description of the video. And you scroll all the way down near the bottom, and near the bottom you'll see all my links for everything. Down there is my email, my Facebook page, the link to my second channel. There's also links to how you can support my channel through Patreon, through Venmo donations, through Square donations, and instructions on how to join my YouTube membership service for getting exclusive content. So if you guys want to support the channel, or you just want to buy me a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, that's how you can do it, folks. Alrighty, well, this has actually been a really fun stream, because, like I said, these streams are always like the highlight of my week, because I get to just come here and talk to you guys and just talk about trains, ocean liners, all that kind of stuff. So once again, it's just, oh, it's so nice to do these things. I love this. Yes, I've heard of Empress of Britain. Brocky says, do you have an Instagram? No, I don't have an Instagram. I'm an old soul in a young body. I'm kind of like a boomer. I don't understand Instagram. I've tried working it. I'm very bad at it. I don't have Instagram. Let's see. I'll just type Queen Mary. I'll type my email in the thing. What is it? Oh yeah, it's. Okay. Now. All right. There you go. So yeah, this. So I told you the schedule for this week. Look out for those other videos, and I have an update video for the trains for my second channel. The link is in the description below for that. I don't have. I mean, not the video, but I'm going to be making a video with an update on the layout and how it got this far. So that'll be on the second channel eventually. I'll let everybody know when I put it out, but I don't know yet because this channel takes precedence over the second one. So I think that's all I have to tell you guys. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me again. I always look forward to these tea time streams to hang out with everybody and talk to everybody. So anyway, thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.